4:30 in the morning on the opening day of archery season 2016. Seems like no matter how much you prepare for it, it still always sneaks up on you, but looks like it's going to be perfect weather to chase mule deer today, so I'm as excited as I was 13 years ago when I started doing this, so still get that first little chill in the morning and can't wait to watch the sunrise on the 2016 season.
When it comes to chasing giant old muley bucks with a bow and arrow, there are very few hunters that I know that would have a better resume than Jeffrey Solberg. Over the past few years, he has taken some of the most impressive bucks in Alberta and has consistently shown the skill and dedication required to harvest only the largest bucks in the area. I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity to share some of these hunts with Jeffrey, and must say that it's truly remarkable to see the skill and experience that shines through on each stalk. The years of failures and missed opportunities have carved Jeffrey into a mule deer's worst nightmare. And with very high expectations for 2016, I could only sit back and wonder where his mule deer season would take him.
Dan and I are hunting in an area that's completely new to me. We've scouted it a few times, but it's totally different than any mule deer hunting I've ever really done before. Kind of big open sage flats. So instead of a lot of hiking and biking, we're actually kind of driving around from one kind of tall point to the next, locating deer, and then we're gonna have to hike from there. But we're seeing these deer at over a mile away, so it's a good thing we've got good glass, because it's pretty hard to make things out, especially in this flat light. But still haven't located any shooters, but we know they're in here, so we'll see what we can find. This country looks relatively flat, but you could hide a dump truck in here. There's so many little sand hills that these deer have a million places to hide. It's gonna be a little bit more difficult than we had anticipated, I think. But that's what makes it fun. When all hope is lost of ever finding the deer that you're after, there's always a chance that you'll find a shed antler. Looked out the other side and we both said, there he is. That's the one we're after. So he's only 500-600 yards away. So we're gonna go try to get close to him while he's still on his feet. I'll throw this in there too. My favorite sage-colored Vortex hat. It has been a cold and foggy morning, dreary and gray. But the sun is starting to break through the clouds. The fog just disappeared in a matter of 2 minutes. Probably it disappeared. So we are off to kill a bird. No, wait. To find a mule deer. I already tried to kill a bird this morning and that did not work. So hopefully better luck on mule deer than blackbirds this morning. But finally we can go, so let's go. Well, we finally found some antlers to chase. Looks like a pretty good buck, but we're not sure how big, so almost looks like we got rain moving in now. So we're gonna bomb over here, try to get closer to him and see what he looks like. We just gotta find him bedded. That's the big issue right now. They're up still, so we're gonna circle way around and try to get a look at them. Finally found him again. We're only about probably 7 kilometers from where we last found him.
After sneaking into range on this buck earlier in the day and busting him, they were able to locate him once again bedded with his does. Now, a buck of this caliber didn't get this big by being dumb, and the screaming wind was making this deer paranoid everywhere he went. The slightly rolling sage flats of southern Alberta make it tough to sneak within bow range without being spotted, and force you to make a painfully slow approach as you crawl on your belly through the cactus-infested flats. It takes hours to move into position, and after getting set up within shooting range, they waited patiently for this buck to stand. And what happened next would make any hunter sick. As Jeffrey released his arrow on this once-in-a-lifetime buck, it took a second to register what exactly had just happened. You'll notice that no arrow ever entered your screen, and that's because it didn't come within 50 feet of this buck. It turns out that as Jeffrey came to full draw moments earlier, the hurricane-like sidewind had blown his arrow off the side of his rest, causing it to sail 50 feet left and high upon release. It was one of those moments that defies belief, and as Jeffrey watched this giant buck bounce over the hill in front of him, he couldn't help but wonder if they would ever see him again.
Boy, yeah, it went about 12 hours without water, and we put on just under 20K. That deer, all I can say is he's lucky. We had him at 55, at 38, at 46, at 66, and at 50. And couldn't seal the deal once. And the one time I did get drawn and get a shot, the crosswind actually blew my arrow off my rest. I didn't even know it, and I missed him by a country mile. It was his lucky day, but boy, what an amazing day of mule deer hunting. Basically got a full year's worth of mule deer hunting in one day. 5 stalks, and yet he lives. You want me to do a couple of these? Just nothing like that?
Well, it's up to you.
Are you good to go?
Now you got no battery on there. It makes it look like you're trying to make it lighter.
That's true.
Yeah.
We are.
Give her.
You caught us. Time to kill a mule deer, man. This feels good. This feels right. I'm ready. I'm ready, coach. Put me in.
We're having our spaghetti and meat sauce mountain house. Dana didn't throw any spoons in today, so we have to try and use something.
In between chasing giant muley bucks for himself, Jeffrey was able to sneak away to join Corey and myself as we tried getting onto a few good bucks as well. It didn't take us long to find a beautiful buck with an extra split on his left front fork bedded along the side of the coulee. And although it wasn't a good situation, we had to give it a try. 'Cause 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 'Cause
sagebrush, Jeffrey slithered into position for the second camera angle. Oh yeah. Jeff lays it out all on the line for footage. He's right in there. He becomes one with the sage. Look at him.
Corey had spent a lot of time chasing muleys this past season, but unfortunately came out empty-handed. Towards the very end of October, as the season was wrapping up, my good friend Jason Bensick from Victory Archery traveled up to Alberta to spend a few days hiking the coulees with me, hoping to get onto a giant buck for himself.
Dana and I have been walking the tops here, checking out all these coulees. This coulee right behind us here. We walk down this ridge that kind of splits the two. And right in the bottom under a big old washed out cut, there's a toad of a buck bedded up there. So we're gonna head down through the bottom of this and see if we can't get close.
As luck would have it, we were 3 minutes too late getting into position on this buck, as he stood up and dropped down the shelf before we could get set up. We were seeing plenty of giant bucks and were confident that Jason was going to get his opportunity. But sometimes things happen that you could never predict. We had spotted a buck late in the afternoon on our third day, tucked into a hole so protected that it was impossible to get a look at him without being busted. We were running out of time and decided to sneak into position before he stood up. We had no idea how big he was and figured that once he stood up, we would judge him and make our decision then. The only thing we didn't account for was the adrenaline associated with being 20 yards away when he stood up. As I watched this buck through the 2-inch screen on my camera, my attention was 100% drawn towards keeping this buck in focus, while Jason's killer instinct kicked in. And when this buck stepped into a lane, he took the shot.
He saw me move, and just as my shot broke, he lunged forward, so I hit him a little further back than we'd like, but we got him. He didn't go. He actually didn't run that far and bedded down, and we're gonna go put our hands on him. He ran down this big canyon behind us. You can probably see it. Not a giant, but he'll do. I'm happy with him. Any animal I'm happy with, so I had a heck of a time out here with Dana and the Fatal Impact crew. I think Jeffrey's actually supposed to meet us tonight, but we might call him off on that, I don't know, but it's a good time, had a lot of fun, and I'm going home with a mule deer buck.
Jason had traveled 1,500 miles to come to the prairies to chase some of the toughest mule deer to hunt in Alberta. It was an adventure from the very moment we began, from losing a day of hunting because of a mix-up with the tags, to a full-out high-speed faceplant off the bikes in one of the most epic crashes I've ever witnessed to date. Jason was able to experience the greatest aspects of chasing muleys and came out with a successful hunt.
Dana's got me down to my skivvies.
We had an absolute blast in camp and worked our butts off to try and kill a mule deer in a very short window of time. And I'm already counting down the days until he returns to the prairies of Alberta once again. Now you might be wondering what happened to the rest of Jeffrey's hunt. Well, all I can say is that after Jason went home, I met up with Jeffrey for what turned out to be one of the greatest hunts of our lives for the largest typical mule deer harvested in southern Alberta with a bow in 2016. This was a hunt unlike anything we've ever experienced, and is one of our top 3 must-watch episodes of the year. You're not going to want to miss it.
We meandered nonchalantly down a small hill, turn around to go back to the truck, and this hill has grown 2 times the size it was, and at least twice as steep too. Like, you turn your back for 2 minutes, and these hills are enormous and steep. How it is when you're mule deer hunting, but luckily, we've got fuel for the road.